Well, welcome to the end of another week. Just landed back in Ireland this morning. Still very early morning here. Beautiful day in Ireland, and just returned from a 2 or 3 week stint in the US, various parts of the East Coast, between New York, Boston, Chicago, Milwaukee. Just a great couple of weeks. So yeah, let's dive in. So I guess the first thing to say is having spent the last few weeks stateside, it's very clear that the market is definitely rebounding. We'll probably have our best quarter ever by the end of June, just with the visibility that we have right now. Met with some existing clients, very valued clients that have helped us to grow and indeed expand the footprint of our product. Get some face-to-face time with those clients and talk about the roadmap for the product, but also get some real-time feedback from those clients in terms of where they'd like to see the platform going, and just invaluable for us that we know we're building products that people are going to use. Spent some time in New York, in Boston, in Chicago, Milwaukee, and had the opportunity to welcome some new clients as well, which is just great. Obviously, it's the lifeblood of the business, and great to be able to see that growth coming, and all of the hard work of the team really paying off. So that's just been incredibly exciting, and I think given that we're just at the final month of Q2, as I say, great prospects for the half year for us as a business to really break through some significant milestones financially, and indeed from a client count, a fund count, and an AUM perspective. So yeah, very exciting times. So one of the interesting developments this week was the passing by the House in the US of the Equal Opportunity for All Investors Act of 2023. And it contemplates an exam-based approach to becoming an accredited investor. It's essentially another or an alternative path for Americans to become accredited investors, rather than necessarily satisfying the income-based rules, which are $200,000 for an individual or $300,000 for joint income for a household, to be identified as accredited investors, or to have a net worth greater than $1 million. And so this is an interesting development. It still needs to be approved by the Senate, but ultimately is a new path for Americans to become accredited investors, subject to its passing. It's contemplated that it will be administered by FINRA. So we're going to watch that one with interest. Naturally, today, we, as part of the asset class platform, support the assessment of accredited investors, and indeed integrate with accredited investor certification providers that are out there. But it'll be interesting to see if that develops further and perhaps widens the net of accredited investors in the US, which I think will be, it certainly has its challenges in terms of how it's administered. But I think it'll be a great opportunity for a broader base of investors to get access to what has to date been, right now about 15% of Americans qualify as accredited investors. This would broaden the net substantially, and subject to proving that an individual has the knowledge to pass that initial exam, in air quotes. They'll have access to these alternative investments as well. So I think it should be for the greater good, broaden the capital net that funds can look at, and certainly we'll be watching it at Asset Class to see how that develops and indeed provide solutions if and when it becomes a reality. So I mentioned there's been a lot of travel in the past few weeks, and the one theme that's emerging from all of my meetings with private capital firms across mostly the east and central regions of the US, is that they're preparing for, the next generation of investor relations. There's a real focus on improving the communications that they have with their investors. Obviously, there's been a drop off in funding, or rather fundraising, but that's really freed up people's time to focus on the experience that they're providing to their LPs, and a major shift in focus to providing greater insights to investors, providing better communications to them on the performance of their funds. I think the fact that the market has been so challenged in the last year, and with write-downs in venture capital in particular, maybe a little bit less so in private equity, LPs are looking for more insights. They want more transparency around the performance of their investments, and that's a theme that's been central to the discussions that we've been having. There's been a ton of work that our development teams and design teams have been putting into upgrading our portal views. We'll be excited to share news of that in the coming months. But the next version of our portal is in the works, the LP portal. There's also some really significant development been put into investor reporting, and what I mean by that is the performance of the assets within the portfolio of those investors. And I think that's going to really provide and answer the question for a lot of LPs that many of these portals out there are not really answering right now, in terms of how is my portfolio performing, how are individual investments performing, and really giving that transparency that a lot of LPs are looking for. So very exciting to see that, and great, as I said earlier, to be able to respond to the real world requirements of clients, and excited to bring that to market here in the coming weeks and months. Also this week, we have the pleasure of attending the Drawdown Awards in London with some of the team, and indeed with some of our clients. We were lucky enough to be selected in 2 categories, and fingers crossed that we come away with some silverware. But either way, just to be recognized and shortlisted is recognition of the team, the effort that people within the business have put into developing the product and bringing it to the point where it is today. I mean, really the depth and breadth of the product right now is incredible. Clearly I'm biased, but to be recognized independently as a player in the space is extremely gratifying. And so fingers crossed, we'll see on Thursday evening if we're successful. But either way, as I say, an opportunity to network with the great and the good in the private equity and private capital space here in Europe. And we'll update you next week as to whether or not we were successful. So watch this space. So that's it for another week, another vlog. Thanks to all of the clients and indeed prospective clients that I've met over recent weeks. We look forward to continuing to deliver on the promises that we made to you. And wherever you are, whatever you're doing, hope you have a great weekend and a great week ahead. And we'll chat to you soon. Take care.